This place has everything. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
That performance deserves a holy wallawa.
It's a feeling you cannot explain.
This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon.
And welcome to that post-game show out west for that team out west. I'm Ted LaRue. Just an absolute dominant performance by the Ducks out there on Saturday. One might say it was a nice victory. 69-3. The Ducks show what happens when you invest in winning. An absolutely dominant victory for the Ducks today. I'm going to talk about my takeaways from this game, my immediate reaction to this game here in just a little bit. Going to talk about my top performers as well. That's coming on down the line. And then we're going to let you guys take the floor on the TSOW Talk and Text line. That number, 541-357-6390. That's 541-357-6390. Wow. Wow, what an impressive performance out there at Autzen Stadium today. And this team, man, they took it up another level, but more on that here in just a moment. Let me dive into my takeaways from this matchup. And look, you guys are expecting me to come on here and maybe break down how good specific parts of the offense was, break down specific parts of how good the defense was, and I guess I'll do that, but this is what happens when you invest in winning. You get what you pay for. This was high-level players across the field, first team, second team, going all the way down to the third team against much better players on the other side of the ball for Oklahoma State. You had much better coaching, and then you had much more motivation certainly behind him. Dan Lanning said this in the post-game press conference, quote, It never requires extra motivation for an opportunity to go out and kick ass. But it never hurts when somebody pours gasoline on the fire. Colorado maybe learned this, how they came in a couple of years ago, and then, Dan Lanning will use that extra little bit of motivation to get his team going. He'll look to his team throughout the week and say, that coach on the other sideline, he just thinks you're here for the money. He just thinks you're some money-hungry players over there. Show them what Oregon football is all about. Show them what top-tier level Power 2 and Big Ten football is all about, and they certainly did that. I think the thing that impressed me of how dominant they came out early was that word, early. They put this game away from the very beginning, and it was the same last week against Montana State. Maybe we didn't see this type of just scorching starts from Oregon a year ago. Remember, you kind of had Dylan Gabriel playing into the third quarter, maybe some of the early fourth quarter in some of these blowout victories. But they're saying, no, we're putting this game away right now. We're showing how strong we are, and we are making that statement from the very beginning. So that's something that certainly has stood out to me, is just how well they're executing early in this game. Like, it doesn't take them a couple of cranks on the lawnmower. That's not what this is. This is them coming out and playing extremely confident right out of the gate in both of these matchups. And coming into this game against Oklahoma State, it'll be like, okay, yeah, Oklahoma State is a levels up from what Montana State was. How was Oregon going to be able to respond against that increased competition? It looked a lot of the same. And in a lot of instances, it looked better, because the jump that this team made from week 1 to week 2, I think, was big on all fronts. They played levels better, more confident than they did over in week 1. And week 1 was really good, I think, to be able to start the season as well. Let's talk defensively. The dominant defense, only allowing 3 points in this game, didn't allow any big plays over the top. That was a big talking point. Oklahoma State, they like to stretch the ball down the field. How is the secondary going to do? I know there was a big play, it was sometime in the first half, that set them up for the one scoring opportunity that they did get, where they kicked the field goal. That was kind of a busted coverage back there. But I thought overall, there weren't a lot of big plays. The secondary, I think, played pretty honest throughout this game. And if that was going to be the case, if you told me that was going to happen before the game, I'd say, yeah, they're going to have a lot of success. Because Oklahoma State did not have a good offensive line, and Oklahoma State did not have very dynamic running backs to be able to kind of bust it through the defense as well. I mean, Oregon, 163 rush yards. Wait for it. In the first quarter, they outgained Oklahoma State 631 yards to 211. And I believe this Ducks team has been impressive and as convincing as anybody in college football the first 2 weeks. Now, have their opponents been the greatest teams in the world? No. Have maybe some other teams took on some much stiffer tests? Yes. But the way they just take care of business, that business-like approach would be like, yep, we know we're so much better than you. We're going to take care of it right away. And poor James Ferguson Reynolds. Now, he did get on the field. There were a couple of times where Oregon punted today, but it was looking real close there for a while that the transfer punter from Boise State might have another day off. Now, we talk about the fast start that Oregon had right out of the gate. Why? It was the explosive plays. It was revealed by Jenny Dell on the sidelines of the CBS crew that, ante up was the theme for last week. This week, it was let her rip. And boy, did they let her rip with some explosive plays. How about touchdowns on Noah Whittington right off the bat, 59 yards? How about Dante DeCorian Moore for 65 yards? That was probably my favorite. The first more-to-more touchdown connection. Jaden Lamar had a 59-yard run. That set up a 19-yard touchdown run from De'Aaron Hill, the first in De'Aaron's young career. And I've got a feeling we're going to see a lot more from De'Aaron Hill. But more on that in just a moment. Dante Moore hit Malik Benson for a 42-yard strike for a touchdown. So last week, when you're looking at week one, okay, Montana State, they're playing two deep safeties. They're allowing a lot of stuff underneath, a lot of catch and run stuff. And that's the way Oregon, they like to certainly capitalize with that kind of thing. But this week, we talk about things going up a level. This week, you saw what you had in week one. Now they showed another level to their offense. I've talked about it through the offseason, through spring, through summer, through fall camp. And I'm like, with what Dante Moore provides at quarterback, and with the weapons that they have, guys like speed guys, like Benson can get over the top and beat somebody. Of course, DeCorian Moore can beat somebody over the top. Like, they're adding, the offense was already one of the most efficient offenses in college football, one of the best offenses in college football over the last couple of years that Will Stein has been the offensive coordinator. And now you add the deep strike playmaking ability on top of it, and it's just unfair. We talked about unfair when we chatted about Amari Washington last week. Now it's offense that's looking a little bit unfair after this one as well. So 4 plays, 4 touchdowns of 40-plus yards in this game. That certainly got them off to a good start, got Oklahoma State on their heels, and it was over, folks. It was over from the second play of the game. When the offensive line created that hole for Noah hit that hole going a million miles an hour, and he took it to the house. It was done. When it happened that early with this crowd, and boy, it certainly looked like a party inside Autzen Stadium today, it just seemed like they set the tone from the start that this is what the game is going to be. We are going to play the game on our terms, and you have zero chance at kind of flipping it back the other way. Now, my third takeaway is going to be more and more Dante and DeCorian. But before I get to that, I want to talk about the running back rotation. It just appears right now Mekhi Hughes just isn't good enough. I mean, Mekhi barely got in this game. You look at the running back rotation to start this thing off. Noah Whittington and Jaden Lamar. I mean, those look like your top 2 guys right now. And I just want to say this about these 2 guys. If it makes you feel anything, it makes you feel good. These are 2 guys that have been in the program for a handful of years. In some instances, maybe they've been overlooked a little bit at times, maybe a little bit more Jaden than Noah. But these 2 guys have proven that they have taken steps up in their game to be able to earn those opportunities. Jaden, he's that speed guy, man. When he gets to the corner, when you can get him in the open field, there's not a Lions that can catch him. And then beyond those 2 guys, it looks like De'Aaron Hill, man. I love watching this guy get into the open field. That's another guy. When it's him and he's got 2 or 3 yards of space, he can do some special things when he has the football in his hands. We knew that this was a deep running back room. Dan Lanning has been saying it over the last week and a half or so. It's like it is going to be a challenge to get all of these guys the football. And Mekhi, whether it's him, his maybe inability to pick up the playbook or whatever it is with Mekhi, that's kind of the way I think we're leaning right now. It doesn't matter because the way it looks, there's guys that are just better in the running back room right now, which is I don't know if that was on people's bingo card when this season really started. My last takeaway. More to more on display, ladies and gentlemen. Dante raised his game. Maybe I shouldn't say he raised his game, but Dante just showed another part of his game. The thing when Dante throws the football, every single time, the football is in a place where only an Oregon receiver can catch the ball. If it's overthrown, I think there was a throw towards the back of the end zone today. There was no chance that the defender was going to get a hand on that football. If it's a short passing concept or whatever it is, if it's thrown to the outside, it's not thrown maybe behind him where the defender can maybe have a better chance to deflect the football or maybe get a turnover. And that's, I think, a huge part of Dante's game where he's really improved since what we saw on tape from his freshman year over there at UCLA. I saw multiple instances from Dante today where he's changing the arm angle. He's getting pretty Mahomey in the way he does things. When he's got a defender in his face, he'll lower that arm, and he still has that flick of the wrist where it doesn't really change the velocity in which the ball comes out of his hands. He's still throwing it extremely accurately. Man, it just... beginning of the season, I'm looking at Dante Moore, and I'm like, okay, I feel like a Bo Nix trajectory. You guys have heard me say that multiple times already. 2-year trajectory. That's kind of where I was going with that. The more I watch Dante Moore play the game of football, the more I'm like, oh man, we might need somebody new next year. Because I talked about Patrick Mahomes, the way he really changes the arm angle so quickly and he can keep that velocity. There's one guy that I watched growing up in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, and I see a lot of that in the way Dante Moore throws it with the quick release and just how every single pass is right on the freaking money. I want to talk about DeCorian Moore a little bit. We saw a little bit last week. Last week was kind of just the taste. But this week, you dove into a couple more courses, didn't you, within that meal? That deep ball, that's the type of speed that I think a lot of Oregon fans were looking for when you combine it with Dante Moore's ability to throw the football down the field. That's what got everybody so excited. But, man, this guy's athleticism, this guy's twitchy ability in the open field to make cuts, make guys miss, and just outrun everybody, it's different, man. It is different. And we saw it on that, like I said, we saw it on that long ball. We saw it on the reverse. They just want to get him the ball in any way possible. Last week, it was a lot of shorter stuff. We've seen him back there in punt return. We saw him today carried in the run game. The deep passing, going down the field, just beating his guy on a go ball over the top. They're doing anything possible to get number one the football and give me more of that. Dante and DeCorian this is game 2 we're talking about. Game 2 out of 12 in the regular season. What are these guys going to look like when we get to game 7? What are these guys going to look like when we get to game 8? That's the thing that really excites Oregon fans, I believe. Just an absolute dominant performance. I said this before. I'm like, I don't want to come on the show every time and this being a sunshine pumping experience. But when you beat a Power 4 team 69-3, there's a lot of good things to say about your football team. All right, let's dive into my top performers right now. Dante Moore, of course, he's got to be at the top of this list. Look, I want to get some variety out there. But if Dante keeps playing like this, he's going to keep on ending up on my top performers list on these post-game shows. Okay, 16-21, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. DeCorian Moore, he had the 2 catches, 69 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. No Whittington, he only carried the ball 4 times, but he made the most of it. 91 yards, averaging over 20 yards per carry. If you're asking, yes, that's good. Jaden Lamar, 6 rushes, 87 yards and a touchdown. That appears to be the 1 and 2 running back combination right now. Big shout out I want to throw out to Jaden Kennedy. Jaden Kennedy playing that star position early in the game. He is just sniffing around the football every play. Now, he only had 2 tackles in this game, but he's just around. He is really disciplined. He's really honest. He knows where the football is at all time, and I really noticed that early in this game. Bryce Betcher, 9 tackles within this game. So no doubt about it, an impressive performance. This is as good as it gets, folks. I want to open up the phone lines, the TSOW talk and text line right now. 541-357-6390. That's 541-357-6390. Let's talk, man. Let's talk all about this victory. Let's dive into the chat here on YouTube. Why don't we? Area 11_T says, the talent this year is real and it is deep. You know, when you talk about just the depth of this football team right now, I mean, you're looking at second-team guys and third-team guys, and it just does not drop off. And that's why maybe you get these 50 spots. That's why you get these 60 spots against much inferior teams because, you know, maybe with other high-quality teams, when their number ones come off the field, that's when their number 2s are in there. That's when their number 3s are in there. And, okay, maybe it, you know, you don't get as much when in terms of points and production when those guys are on the field, but not for Oregon. Not for Oregon. Their depth of talent. I thought last year was awesome. This year, it's ridiculous. It's stupid, the amount of talent that there is right now. Brian Wilson chiming in saying he's looking forward to the Penn State game. Yeah, like when you look at kind of their upcoming schedule, Northwestern and Oregon State, I mean, those are your 2 games. I think I saw Oregon State was losing at one point to Fresno State on Saturday. But when you look at those 2 games, it's just like, you're going to see more of this. Are we going to see 50-plus spots all of these games leading up to the Penn State game? It's a possibility. And I tell you what, the more game time I see from the Oregon Ducks, the more the more I think they can go into Happy Valley. They can win that game. I'm not saying they will win that game, but they can win that game. And I probably thought that to begin the season as well, but the more I see it, I'm like, the more confident that I maybe get about this team as well. We got a text message coming in on the TSOW talk and text line as well. Oregon looked dominant today in all phases. Happy to see DeCorian Moore finally arrive. I think it's just a glimpse here. Dante is the truth. Naeem Offord is an exciting prospect. And notice he had a few mental mistakes today. I think he's the one that got burned in the long pass play, explosive play for Oklahoma State in this game. So those are things that they got to be able to shore up back there in the secondary to prevent those things. He says, I'm really excited for this Oregon team. They seem to be very much locked in. They are just, and they're connected. That's something that Dan has said. They talked about it on the post-game show as well. I mean, these boys just look different. It just looks different. It feels different from last season. And I think when we talked about the 2024 Oregon Ducks, not just me, but I think a lot of people were out there saying this is the most talented team possibly that Oregon has ever had. And now you look at this 25 squad, and you see DeCorian Moore doing his thing. You see De'Air Hill doing his thing. You see Brandon Finney doing his thing. I mean, these guys, they have to be on a college campus. They cannot go to the NFL for 2 years after this season. The future is insanely bright. And these freshmen are coming on right away and making an immediate impact. Curran Williams hitting us with that BTA. It was that type of punishment that was delivered today, no question. The Cowboys must have went duck hunting blind. Yeah, that's a very common thing that opposing fan bases when they play Oregon. We're going duck hunting this week. Well, didn't really work out the best, did it? Not so much. We've got a text here coming in from the TSOW talk and text line right now. I got 2 texts from the same person here. Also, when you text in, make sure you leave your name and your hometown so I can list that off as well. Well, Ted, that's what $40 million will buy you. We all know, like, last year was not a $40 million roster. It was like a $20 million roster, but that's a whole different conversation. As well, the texter also says 2 pick sixes back to back, and Autzen went nuts. Hashtag go Ducks. Hashtag TSOW. I mean, maybe you gotta feel, maybe you don't, about the about Zane Flores, but man, he threw it to the same spot on the field. What was the first one? The first one was Jerry Mixon, and the second one was Peyton Woodyard. That's from Rick. Rick, appreciate the text message out there and chiming in here on the TSOW talk and text line 541-357-6390. Brandon the Duck chimes in on the YouTube live chat. I think seeing things that we're all looking forward to. Brandon says, the Ducks versus them is gonna be so good. What Scott Anderson and the media team did with that 2023 Colorado Ducks versus them, and that's what really got that video series onto the map in the mainstream. And I think that's the first year it started. But that's what really got a lot of people's attention this week. Oh, boy. I can't wait to see the things that Dan was saying maybe pregame. I can't wait to see the things that maybe Dan was saying in the week leading up. You know, they have him in front of the team meeting rooms and all of that things as well. But, whoo, baby, that could get a little bit spicy, and I cannot wait to see that. Captain Hiltz, he's over on Scoop Duck as well, by the way, so thanks for chiming in. CH, money doesn't buy team unity. This team has an elite bond. Now, that's the thing I think people really get confused a lot of times with money is, you know, you've got all of these things saying, oh, they got all these great players. They got that great player. They're good because obviously great players is the start of having a great team, obviously, but it takes more than that. You have a bunch of great players show up and you don't have the coaching, you don't have the connection, you don't have the direction, you don't have the motivation. They're not going to end up with much. We've seen semblance of that and examples of that, I think, throughout other programs and other teams throughout college football in recent history. But Dan's got all of those things. Dan certainly got his ducks in a row, and he says, we need money to be able to get players to be able to win a national championship. But then it's my job. And that's where I take over. Well, I shouldn't say I take over because Dan does a great job at setting up a fantastic recruiting plan with great assistant coaches who are also great recruiters as well. So, but then it's his ability to be able to put these guys in the right spots, keep them laser focused from week to week. It was fantastic. Fantastic. Ram Spencer. Maybe he read my column over there at Scoop Duck because this was my final sentence. Lesson? He says don't like the bear. I think he means don't poke the bear. Whatever it is, just don't interact with the bear. I think Mike Gundy, certainly learned that lesson today. Ram also chimes in. By the way, shout out to Ram. I remember Ram from the comment section from BTT last year. For every player Oregon got, there was someone else willing to pay the same kind of money, sometimes more. This is a team players want to play for. And I talked about him when I was going through my takeaways. Mekhi Hughes is probably somebody that they paid a decent amount of money for. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but considering the production that he put up at Tulane, he was probably highly sought after in the transfer portal. But he's come in, and he finds himself like 4th or 5th on the depth chart right now. And that's when you have this type of team with this type of talent, iron sharpens iron. It doesn't matter who plays. The best players are going to play. It doesn't matter what you did anywhere else. It matters what you do here. It matters what you're doing in practice. It matters how hard you're working. It matters how much you know. And it matters what happens on Saturday. Duck Disciple always chiming in with the old fee-boo right now. Nick chiming in on the live chat. Mike Gundy opened his mouth, spewed trash about Oregon, and he deserved a whooping. Oh, Oh, yeah. You love to see it. I kind of downplayed it a little bit on the show this week, but now that the result happened and the way it happened, look at the smile right here. Look at the smile. Brimming from ear to ear. We've got a text coming in here on the TSOW Talking text line. Hey, Ted. That's me. I was wondering if you think we will see more of Naeem Offord. I know our secondary, especially DBs, are very deep. Maybe he'll redshirt. I don't anticipate him redshirting right now. He's very much in that second team type of conversation. I really don't know. Hopefully it all pans out for him, though. He was awesome coming out of high school. You know, it's interesting with Naeem Offord because if you would have told me in spring, summer, whatever, months before the season started, before fall camp, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. If you would have told me, oh, there's going to be a true freshman starting at corner right away, I'd be like, oh, yeah. It's Naeem Offord. It's Naeem Offord. But it's Brandon Finney. I think Brandon Finney, based on what we heard in fall camp, and I think based on what we've seen on the field, Brandon Finney has been the more impressive freshman. Now, look, here's the thing that we need to keep in mind when we talk about true freshmen, because there's a lot of true freshmen out there making plays. DeCorian Moore's making plays. D.R. Hill's making plays. Brandon Finney's making plays. Jordan Davison in short yardage situations is doing some things. But here's what we need to keep in mind. We're 2 games in. And these are true freshmen. Okay? I know when you recruit the way Oregon does, you expect a lot out of these types of players. But let's remember exactly where they are. Some players are going to develop faster than others when they get in a college strength and conditioning program. Shout out Wilson Love. And then when they just get in, some guys are going to learn things faster than others. They're going to latch on faster than others. So you like the guys like a D.R. Hill, like a DeCorian Moore, like a Brandon Finney that are doing their thing. But it doesn't mean that by the time we get to game 7 or 8, by the time when it really matters towards the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, Naeem Offord still could be playing well. So I preach patience. I think Offord will be just fine, but we'll wait and see how he performs the remaining games here as we continue to go on the schedule. Quickly going outside of the Oregon bubble, Brandon the Duck giving us an update. Florida going down to USF. USF, didn't they beat down Boise, I think, to begin the year. That might be a sneaky G5 team out there to make the college football playoff in Tampa. 509 Duck chiming in, if I can bring the comment up. Dante is special. Man, I mean, you look throughout the season. I know Arch Manning played Ohio State, and it sounds like he bounced back today. And you look at some of the discussion of the best quarterbacks in college football, Dante Moore has got to be in that conversation. Now, a lot of people, they're going to talk about the schedule, which I don't think the schedule is maybe as weak as some other schedules that are out there. But Dante has been ultra impressive. And I think Dante deserves to be in the conversation as being one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I mean, he has just been lights out to start the season. So, yeah, I think he's got it. I think the big thing for Dante is going to be that game against Penn State. He can't go out. I don't think he will, but he can't go out there and lay an egg in that type of environment. That's going to tell us, like, these next 2 games aren't going to tell us much, to be honest with you. You know, they might tell us a little bit against Northwestern and Oregon State, but we're really going to find out, is this team truly at a national championship type of level when they face off against the Penn State Nittany Lions in primetime, Beaver Stadium, NBC, whiteout. That's when we're going to find out exactly what Oregon is. Now, if they lose, that's okay. You know, if they lose by 3, if they lose by 5, 6, 7 points, whatever, you know, that's fine. But if they win, it's going to tell us, okay, this is a national championship contender, no doubt. If they lose by a lot, it'd be like, all right, there's some work to do to be able to build up by the time the postseason starts as well. Now, Brandon the Duck brings up a good point here about Mekhi Hughes. Mekhi does have 2 years of eligibility. But as soon as Brandon the Duck does say that, okay, look who else you got that in that running back room. Dink Riggs. By the way, Dink Riggs is almost kind of that, you know, there's a lot of talk about Mekhi Hughes. There's a lot of talk about the true freshman. And, of course, right now it looks like Noah Whittington and Jaden Lamar are your top 2 guys in that room. But Dink Riggs is kind of someone that I think like myself and a lot of people thought would be like that number 3 back this season. And he's kind of further down on the depth chart with Mackay as well. But this is what happens. You let this deep running back room where everybody can ball, everybody can play, and you let them all iron it out there. But yeah, I think Mackay and Dink's spot on the depth chart was certainly not anticipated by a lot of people coming into this season. But with Dink, getting back to the question or the comment I should say here from Brandon. Yes, Mackay's got some time, but Dink Riggs got some time. De'Aaron Hill's got some. The more I look at it, De'Aaron is the future of this position for Oregon. He is. You can see. I don't want to mention his name. I don't want to mention his name with some of the greats, and you know who the greats are. I don't want to put that pressure on that kid right now, but you can see it when he touches the ball, almost like Decorian Moore a little bit. When he touches the ball, it's different. It's different when De'Aaron gets his hands on the football. Yeah, Duck fan down south coming in, and I heard this as well after the game. I think this was the largest margin of victory against Oklahoma State in history. In history, I heard that as well. And there's a lot of, and maybe this is just, Oklahoma State is a team, and I mentioned this during my preview. This is a team that's going through a downturn. This is a team that's clearly declining as a football program. Because I think when the new Big 12 was aligned, I think we thought, okay, Oklahoma State, yeah, that's a team that could be. OK State, Utah would be up there. Maybe TCU, maybe some of the Kansas State, maybe those would be some of the teams that would be up there, really contending for this. But yeah, it's just that hasn't happened, and for many different reasons. But maybe it's Oregon is just that dominant. Is Oklahoma State that bad? What happens if Oklahoma State turns those things around and goes, what are they, 1-1 now? What if they go 8-4? That's a pretty impressive win there for Oregon. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe they'll be around bowl eligibility, but we'll see. This is about Oregon, not about Oklahoma State. Got some text coming in on the TSOW text line right now. You can also call 541-357-6390. So let's talk about it over there. We got this one coming in from the beautiful Rogue River. I remember driving down alongside the Rogue River, leaving Crater Lake, going down to the Redwoods, an absolutely beautiful area of Oregon, but that's the whole state in general. He says, Ducks looking clean, not too many penalties, but lots of points. There was some procedural stuff at times. Kenyon Sadiq, I think, got on the outside shoulder on a holding penalty. You heard Dan talk, and I knew this was going to happen. When they did the interview, what was that, coming out of halftime or something? When Denny Dell did that interview, and I'm like, I know what Dan's going to say, because Dan's got that Saban in him. Dan, you see Dan, Oregon's up, 41-3 or whatever the score is at whatever point, and you get a holding penalty, and he is barking on Kenyon like it is 20-17 in the middle of the third quarter. That's that dog mentality that you need. That's that just drive that you need. That's maybe what Dan Lanny's program has, but Kalen DeBoer's at Alabama doesn't. But that's a different topic for a different day. So thanks for chiming in there with the text message. Well, how about this from Radiant Katie, coming in with the information from the SID's book, Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma State, as Oklahoma A&M College. So they weren't even Oklahoma State at this point. Lost to Oklahoma, lost to the Sooners, 67-rip in 1907. So the Cowboys haven't had a loss this bad for what, 35 years before World War II? Whoo, baby. Fatal Corleone 07 chiming in. Just imagine if Evan Stewart wasn't injured. I want to talk about this for a minute because I'm glad you brought this up. Because in the pregame injury availability, the availability report, it has to be released 90 minutes beforehand. You say, hey, who's questionable, who's out. Now, last week, they had Trey McNutt listed as out, of course, with his spring injury during fall. But the rules are in the Big Ten Conference. If a player is out for the season, you have to list him once, and then you don't have to list him the rest of the year. They listed, for the Montana State game on the availability report, they listed Evan Stewart as out. But then they also listed Evan Stewart as out today, which gives me a little bit of hope that the staff is holding out hope. I don't know when it could be that Evan Stewart could still be on the table at the end of the year. Can you imagine a team, this team, that continues to get better and better and better and better, and then you get to like the USC game, for example, or the Washington game, or whatever game it was. You get to that level, and then, now you get Evan Stewart back? Oh, boy, that could be a real game changer come close to playoff time as well. This is my guy right here, LFBP Fishing. He is a TSOW stalwart. I was there. It was electric all game. I did see that the in-house video board staff did play sound bites for Mike Gundy, and you got to think that got the crowd going. Crowd was probably going to be going regardless, but it certainly went in the right direction. We can talk football, text Duck Football on the TSW Talk and Text line. It is 541-357-6390. Random Cadmus? I think I got that username right. I think that Penn State having a bye early in the season is an advantage for us. Penn State has a bye week before they match up against the Oregon Ducks. They will be just getting synced and taking a break. We look sharp. I kind of like that too. I love the way the schedule is set up because Oregon has these 4 games, of course, to start the season. 2 already in the books. Crazy, man. Time, it's going by. I mean, we wait all offseason for football, and then boom, it just goes away just like that. But then you have Penn State, and then you have a bye. It allows maybe 2 weeks to kind of figure, okay, this is how we played against the top-tier team. Now we got 2 weeks to figure it out. They got a home game against Indiana after that. Whereas Penn State, they got a bye beforehand. Usually, that's an extra week of preparation, but if there's anything we learned about last year, you want to stay hot. And I think I want to see Oregon stay hot going into that game against Penn State. Chris Montgomery said, Ted, glad you enjoyed your vacation to Oregon. Oh, I think about it every day. Someone bring me back for a game. All right, let's see how they stop the run against a top team. We won't know that till Penn State. Penn State is going to be the ultimate test because they got a great offensive line. And they got a great run game with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. So I know there's a lot of people right now be like, okay, things are great. And I appreciate these people. I appreciate the devil's advocate. And I have this in my mind as well. Okay? But we're not gonna know against Northwestern. That's one of the Big Ten's worst teams. We're not gonna know against Oregon State. Oregon State's not a good team at their level, which is we'll call it the G5, G6 level right now, even though the Pac-12 is not officially a conference until next season. But you get what I'm saying? This team is going to look more dominant. This team is going to receive a lot more hype and a lot more juice and a lot more attention. The biggest thing for Dan Lanning has to be right now rat poison, especially after this game, how convincing it was, the score, and all the things that went into this game. Power 4 team, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to start to give them more national attention. Dan comes from the Saban tree. He comes from the Kirby tree. That's already. He's great at keeping his team focused every single week and to continue to get better because he says, like, who cares? I remember when they were number 1 in the country last season. He's like, I don't care. I don't care about being number 1. I want to be number 1 at the end of the year. That's what I want to be. And I got to imagine that's going to be the talking points out of Dan, I think, as we go forward. David Prang chiming in. The talent is insane. DBs and wide receivers are extremely deep. Extremely deep. I mean, yeah, I mentioned it early in the show. You get down to second teamers, you get down to third teamers. That's why you get 59 points against Montana State. That's why you get 69 points against Oklahoma State. Yes, a couple of pick sixes towards the end of the game. That certainly helped the score get to where it was going to get to. But, maybe the offense does their job if those things don't happen and they get to 69 anyway. Okay, but that's you're going to see a lot of these lopsided scores maybe the next couple of weeks. You're going to see a lot of these big scores because their second and third team guys can start on like 115 FBS teams, maybe more, depending on the guy, depending on the position, depending on the group. That's how deep and that's how good this team is. More from Brandon the Duck. Brandon the Duck is on fire in the chat today. Appreciate you. Dante has 6 touchdowns. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I just read this comment. Dante has 6 touchdowns and 10 incompletions. Pretty good, Brandon says. That is insane. That is insane. He's just short of touchdowns from incompletions. Extremely efficient, making good decisions with the football, really smart. And Will Stein he sets things up so beautifully. I mean, I think it was the Decorian Moore touchdown, or it could have been the Malik Benson touchdown. I'll have to go back and watch the film tomorrow. But, they run the ball, they pound at the offensive line, gets to do their thing, and then they unleash down the field. That's what you love to see. That's that's a perfect setup. And that's why Oregon can do just about anything. And I think you're going to see a lot of that throughout the season because the run game is really good right now. Noah's really good. Jaden Lamar is really good. De'Aaron Hill is really good. The offensive line is, I don't want to say miles because that's maybe would be an insult to last year's offensive line. But they're, I think, multiple steps up as far as chemistry and gelling together to where this offensive line was at this point last season. Remember at this point last season, after the second game of the year, Oregon was coming off a walk-off victory against the Boise State Broncos. 37-34, I believe the final score was in that one. Of course, first week was 24-14 against Idaho. Now it's levels above. We talked about to begin the show. It's like week 1 to week 2 shows the different levels that this Oregon team can perform at. You're seeing the levels from 2024 to 2025 through 2 weeks of the season. There are some things to clean up, but right now, looking pretty spicy. David McClurg chiming in. What do you make of not seeing Novosad today? Austin Novosad was on the injury report. He was questionable for this game, so maybe they just wanted to hold him out for, I'm not sure exactly what the injury was. Maybe Dan addressed that in his post-game press conference. I'll have to go back and look at the presser once this show is over. But, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the deal was with Austin out there. Luke Moga, of course, getting a little bit more time. We haven't seen Achilles Smith Jr. as well. That's something that I'll have to maybe ask around to some people that are a little bit in the know and see what the situation is there in some of these garbage time spots as to why he's not getting involved out there. Let's get a comment here from Cole. This team looks so much better than last year's team. Hey, I was just mentioning that. Hey, that's a great segue. I'm really excited about the Penn State game. And last year's team had a ton of experience on it. And now this team, hey, look at the lack of returning starters everybody was saying. And now, that's fine. But I really hope that, I don't know what the story is going to be told. I don't know what's going to happen when this season is all said and done. Okay? But here's what I think I know. I hope that at the end of the season, if it all kind of grows in the trajectory that we at least expect it to go on, I hope that we get into a situation where people start giving Oregon the benefit of the doubt. Dan Lanning brings in elite talent, top 5 recruiting classes, because Ohio State, Georgia, previously Alabama, oh yeah, they got this many, they're losing this many players, but they're going to be fine because they just reload every single year. I think maybe people are starting to understand that after 2 games, that, yeah, Oregon's got a lot of really talented players. And I hope a lot of people are starting to look around and saying, look at all the young players on this team. These boys ain't going nowhere. Not the real David Portnoy, but you never know. I feel sorry for Penn State when they have to play Oregon. Boy, that's going to be... I got to start watching some Penn State tape. I got to start watching some Penn State film right now because this Oregon team is just an absolute machine. They look to be a machine. And like I've said many times throughout this show and throughout other programs that I've hosted as well, we're not going to know a lot until that Penn State game as far as where this team stands nationally. If they win that game, even now, a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon and say, hey, this team looks great. This team looks awesome. And maybe the same people that said, oh, they only have 4 returning starters. What are they going to do? Well, this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to do. Yeah, that's the matchup I think everybody's looking forward to, and I can't wait for that game. Can't wait for that game. 509 Duck says Dante might go number 1 in the draft. Boy, if he keeps playing at this level, he is draft eligible. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. When will it become a probability? I don't know. If he goes and beats Penn State and he lights it up on the road, he's going to be that type of talk that 509 Duck brings up right now. There's going to be a lot more about that. Sean McJunkin says, DeCorian is the most talented player I've watched since DeAnthony Thomas. Just different. These guys are just different, and DeCorian leads the way. I mean, just his ability, his twitchy athleticism, his ability to cut, his ability to change direction, his ability to get open. We're just seeing the glimpse of it, man. I don't know when it's going to be. It could be next week at Northwestern. It could be the following week versus Oregon State. Maybe it's a bigger game. Maybe it's like Penn State, USC, Washington, whatever, later in the year. I don't know when it's going to happen. But I believe DeCorian's going to have just a stupid game. He's going to go for 170, 2 or 3 scores. I don't know when it's going to be, but I think he's going to have that type of big performance at some time during the season. I really do. I can't say your name, but because this is a family-friendly program, but I will read your comment. I think the Ducks covered. Yeah, I think they did too. Bud says, Ted, you deserve to attend a game at Autzen USC, ? For those of you, and this has been brought up to me multiple times, but I'm gonna tell it how it is. Here's the deal about me. It costs a lot of money to travel. I want to say that right off the bat. So if you know of a local business, can be Eugene, can be somebody else that wants to sponsor coverage, TSOW coverage of mine, going out to Autzen Stadium that can cover travel expenses, I'd be more than willing to listen to that conversation. Let's get into some more chats right now. Talking about Austin Novosad. He was questionable here today. David Portnoy comes in again. Things went sideways in the first minute. It was very clear from the word go that this one was going to get out of hand, and it was going to get out of hand big time throughout this game. We got some text to get to here. We got 3 text messages at least to be able to get to. So I want to dive into those. Remember, you can call in 541-357-6390, and we can talk some Duck football. Big win over Oklahoma State, 69-3 here today. This is from Josh from Springfield. Can't get over how well the receivers are blocking on the edge. They're doing a fantastic job. More dominant than any unit I've seen on Oregon on the exterior. And I talked about it earlier in the week, I believe, on a TSOW. The way Oregon plays the game, where they get Gary Bryant and DeCorian and some of these other guys, even Jade Lamar, right? Because I remember last year in the Oregon State game, they swung it out to him and took it all the way for a touchdown. There's been a couple instances where he gets loose on the perimeter, and you see that perimeter blocking really start to pave the way for some big runs. You know what play? I don't remember who got the ball, but it was like a screen pass of some sort. And I did not hear Brad Nessler say this because I was yelling at myself. You've got 5 big boys out front, and it's a convoy. There's an old school country song called Convoy that I used to listen to with my dad growing up, who was a big country music fan. And that kind of reminded me of that. It reminded me, like, oh, man, that's what's one of my favorite plays in football. You get it on the screen, let the big boys out in open space, and let them let them do their thing. Now, maybe that specific play was not sprung for a touchdown or anything, but yeah, the blocking when these guys get out in space is next level. They're taking it to that next level, certainly, this season. So thank you, Josh, for the text message. He's raving about the way these receivers are blocking on the edge. This one from Justin, also known as LFBP Fishing on YouTube. So he okay. So can we take a moment to appreciate how he's getting it done? He's getting it done on the YouTube live chat, and he's getting it done on the TSOW text line. Whew, that's some dedication right there. They played the Gundy comments about his doubting whether or not this quarterback would be bothered by the crowd. That got the people going big time. I personally have a little rasp in my voice as well. You knew, and that's a comment that kind of went under the radar. All the talk this week was about money, but I did hear that comment throughout the week, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I know you're in the Big 12. Maybe you haven't seen as much of what happens when you give somebody the edge, especially at Autzen Stadium. This crowd, yeah, it's loud. And this crowd did a great job. My guy Justin here and 60,000 of his closest friends did a phenomenal job. Causing multiple false start penalties throughout the course of this game. Another one from Rick says they're probably redshirting Achilles Smith Jr. That would be my guess, but you got to play in 4 or less games to be able to redshirt. So to be able to maybe they're managing that. Maybe they're going to get him experience later in the season. Maybe they're going to give him opportunities to get in the game later in the season. But yeah, the plan obviously is to be able to redshirt him. So we'll see how they balance that throughout the season and what the deal is with Achilles going forward. David McClurg says it went sideways in the first minute of the Rose Bowl too. So this is a different perspective, and I enjoy this perspective. And maybe these are some things I'm gonna lock in my brain and maybe talk about on Monday's show. Went sideways in the first 10 minutes of the Rose Bowl. We won't know anything until Penn State. It's true. It's true. They're going to dominate Northwestern, and I don't like to guarantee results. I mean, it sounds kind of cocky. It seems kind of arrogant, but the way this team is playing, I think it's the truth. I think they're going to dominate Northwestern. They're going to dominate Oregon State at home. And then it's Penn State. That's when we're going to find out where this team is. Plain and simple. I mean, this stuff's not hard. It's not hard to see. It's not hard to realize, I think, what's coming up next. It's not hard to see what's coming up next, that's for sure. All right, let's dive into some more comments. This from Chris Montgomery. Tank Jones was watching this massacre. Devin Jackson, the 4-star safety commitment, was also scheduled to be on campus here today. So, yeah, they were all witnessing it. They were all witnessing this massacre that went down at Autzen Stadium, and that's what you love when you get this type of high-profile recruit. Anthony Tank Jones is a guy was recently on an unofficial visit to Miami. Auburn and Alabama are pushing after him hard to be able to have this type of convincing performance with a guy like Tank in the house. Fantastic. P. Pyle chiming in. It's fairly obvious why Dan Lanning wasn't interested in entertaining Nico. That's obvious. That's obvious. That was never going to happen. It's never going to happen because everybody knew how talented Dante was. You could see it. He just needed to go back to school a little bit, and he certainly did that. Ruben, my guy Ruben, we met up at the Wild Duck Cafe. That was, okay, I just noticed this looking down at my computer. That was exactly 1 month ago today I was in Eugene. Meeting up with Ruben, T-Rod, Ryan Winter, and the boys over there, Charles Hasselritter, the owner of the Wild Duck Cafe. 2 pick sixes. Wow, Ruben says. Ruben, hope all is going well over there in Springfield for you and your family. Duck fan down south. I feel bad for people that Sadiq blocks. He's out to destroy people. He is. It's not easy. It's not easy to go up against that. Let's get to some text messages here. Let's dive in. We got a final from the Beeve game. 36-27 Fresno State. So you got Northwestern last week that got beat by 20 by Tulane. And now you got Oregon State who lost to Cal. We'll see how good the Golden Bears are with Jaron Kivewe Sagapulatele. And now they lose to Fresno State by 9. By 9. That's not a good football team, folks. You got Malik Murphy last week yelling at people on the sidelines. It's not going to go better when they face the Ducks, I'll say that. I'm sounding kind of, I'm sounding a little bit arrogant right now. I can kind of notice that, but I'm growing more confident. That's what you get from the live post games. You don't get the filters that you get on Monday and Thursday. So I guess this might be more of a reason to tune into these Saturday post game shows, is you get a little bit of a, hey, it's live, baby. You get a little bit of an unfiltered look of what, and this is like, I want to make this known even with these live post games. It's my immediate reaction. You're going to hear, I think, a lot, maybe, I don't want to say educated, but, when I'm able to kind of take a look back and do a rewatch on Sunday, I'm really going to be able to, having already seen the game and really knowing kind of the main bullet points. And then when I do the rewatch and I talk about it on Monday, that's when we're really going to be able to dive in what exactly happened from the Saturday game. Captain Hiltz once again chiming in. Convenient that Penn State has a bye before us. Oregon could be coming in pretty hot into that game. LFBP Fishing says, I should complete the hat trick and call in. The floor is yours, my friend. The floor is completely yours. We got to get someone to get this party started. Love your shows, Ted. If your name is Tank, he's a badass. And if he was able to see what went down on Saturday, I think he knows what could happen out there. Wow, great performance. 69-3, the Ducks getting it done over Oklahoma State in this matchup. We're going to break down the box score here a little bit. A 66-point victory. Who had that 60? Did any betting service out there have a 65.5 point spread? Not to my knowledge. Let's break this one down a little bit. Oregon, 24 first downs in this game to Oklahoma State's 9. The Ducks were 7 of 12 on third downs. Oklahoma State converted just 4 of their 16 third downs today throughout this one. I mentioned this earlier during the show. The Ducks, 631 yards of total offense, just 211 for Oklahoma State, just 67 yards passing through the air for the Cowboys in this matchup. Oregon outrushed Oklahoma State 312 yards to 144 yards. 144 seems like a lot from what the Cowboys had on the ground. Penalties-wise, 6 penalties for 35 yards. That's one thing that I think they got to be able to clean up early in this game. There were some drives that were halted a little bit, but, man, they were able to overcome it. They were able to convert maybe on some long yardage situations. Oklahoma State, 8 penalties for 45 yards. And for those of you that were at the game, you deserve a round of applause because you're a part of that. There were some pre-snap penalties because of the noise. 2 turnovers, those back-to-back pick sixes. When we take a look at time of possession, Oklahoma State held the ball for about a little bit more than 2 minutes more than Oregon did. 31 minutes, 19 of possession time for Oklahoma State, 28-41 for the Ducks because they were striking so quickly. I got a comment here coming in from random, and I did listen to this last night, actually. I listened to the Ducks of a Feather podcast. Kenyon Barner and Jonathan Stewart over there always love and enjoyed that. He says, since you asked, Jay Stu on Ducks of a Feather said he would like to see 69-10, but his prediction was 59-10. Jay Stu should have stuck with your gut. Over on that one. But, my prediction, I had 45-10, and I'm like, okay, that's 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns. You kick a field goal. I feel pretty strongly that was going to happen. But, man, I think maybe we need to start with these next 2 games. If you're out there, I know I obviously will be. If you're out there predicting a score, you need to kind of maybe, and I'm maybe going to learn from what I'm saying to myself as well. Like, when the 2s and the 3s go in, they're still better. maybe in some cases, even the next 2 weeks, significantly better than what these other teams still have out there with the ones. And then when they're in that mental state, the opposing team are talking about, when they're down 30, when they're down 40, however many points they're behind, Oregon just keeps on driving them into the ground. So they don't let up. They don't let off the gas pedal. I love how this season they've done a phenomenal job at getting a lot of players on the field. Do you remember last year, of course, the dogfight with Idaho, the dogfight with Boise State? And then you kind of take it, like there were a few other games. I want to say the UCLA and Michigan State games where they got ahead, but then they just didn't quite get to that, 4 touchdown lead, 5 touchdown lead, whatever needed to kind of get these subs out of the game. Now you're getting a lot more of these young players on the field. Not only is that going to pay dividends for this year, it's going to pay dividends for the future. I think that was the goal early in the season, to really mash the gas pedal, build the confidence for the ones, kind of figure out who's going to be starting at this spot, who's going to be starting at that spot, figure out, we know that this is a build-up to Penn State. If you've been watching this show, you know that's exactly how I feel. Okay? So, yeah, and then, yeah, it's a good situation to be able to get this many players on the field, not only to figure out what you got, but also to kind of get these guys experience for the future as well. Ducks fan 99. We got to have our expectations higher, my man. Higher expectations. If Oregon plays lights out like this throughout the season, no doubt we'll be in the playoffs, hands down. I think your expectations are beyond playoffs. That's the way I see it right now. Right now, it's building up that team, see how they measure up against Penn State, and then build for that postseason run. Post Penn State, I don't see a team right now that can play with Oregon. People talked about Iowa going on the road. Mark Gronowski has not played well these first 2 weeks of the season. I don't think he's that great quarterback that maybe a lot of people think he's going to be. And I thought that he would be a much better quarterback than what Iowa's had. Not setting a high bar when we talk about that Hawkeye offense and Hawkeye quarterback play. Okay, so we need to talk about, need to mention that certainly as well. But Iowa, I don't see it. USC, we'll see. We'll see. I know they put up, 70-some points in their week 1 game. But I'm not still not overly sold on their offensive line going up against what Oregon has. And Washington, like those last 2 teams, you got really good skill players. But damn, I mean, their lines I don't think are quite up to the task, I would probably say right now. At this point in the season, we got a long way to go. Captain Hiltz, never doubt Daddy Lanning, Ted. I mean, why would we? There's no reason that I remember that. Remember when people were doubting him on the recruiting trail in the spring? When USC was flipping guys and they were having all the success, and I'm like, dude, summer of Dan, and look what happened. And now, don't doubt Dan. Easy for me to say on the field because he's got these boys playing at another level. No question about that. Got another text coming in as well from Southwest Oregon. Absolutely love watching TSOW. Thanks, Ted. The show is great. I appreciate you. I envy you in the place that you call home, and especially that area of the state. That was a beautiful drive. I can still picture it in my head, the tall trees going through there. Captain Hiltz, love Dylan Gabriel, but Dante uses the middle field so much better. We missed that last year. Yeah, that was a limitation of Dylan Gabriel's game. His height, maybe his longer kind of a wind-up release, where he couldn't zip it down the middle of the field. Now you got Dante, stands a little bit taller. He can see over that part of the defense. And, of course, he's got a stronger arm. He's got a quicker release than Dylan Gabriel. Not only are those attributes used in other areas of the offense, but certainly down the middle of the field. That's when we talk about adding levels to the offense. When we talk about Oregon already being one of the best and most efficient offenses in college football and then taking it to another level, this is something we're talking about that my guy Captain Hiltz comes in with, where Dante gets you to that extra level as compared to someone like Dylan Gabriel. Ducks fan 99. I know this is a time, and I'm to blame maybe. A lot of people are optimistic, and I'll watch the film on Sunday, and I'll nitpick something. I'll find something. I found things from last week. I'll find something, but it's true. You just got to take it one game at a time. I know it's cliche. It's coach speak. It's all that. But just got to get better. I think what I want to see for Oregon is like, okay, week 1 to week 2, you saw the new levels. You saw them start to take those steps up, most certainly. Fantastic stuff. Love it. Now let's see something else against Northwestern. Let's see something else. Another level go up from Oregon State. Let's see them kind of do things in a little bit of a different way. I think maybe if you're looking forward to these next 2 games against Northwestern and against Oregon State, let's see the defense dominate. Let's see like a 5-sack game. Let's see a 6-sack game. Let's see something like that. That would be something different and another level that we talk about at Oregon performing. Dale Kolwitz comes in and says, I love how focused Dan has everyone, and they don't just go through the motions when they're up 3 scores. They put the pedal to the freaking metal, man. And they don't let up. I'm sure, that Rose Bowl loss for Oregon was a huge motivational factor. Of course it was for someone like Dan Lanning. And then seeing these guys mash teams the way they did, that's a motivational factor, I think, that's maybe contributed to some of these big scores. And, their talent has something to do with that, certainly, as well. Bud Avert says, Bud's my guy, by the way. Love Bud. The autumn of Dan. So we had the summer of Dan, and now we got the autumn of Dan as well. So a lot of good plays from the corners. And that was a group that was going to be tested in this game. The secondary was going to be tested. I think they only allowed one explosive play, one play over 20 yards in this game that led to Oklahoma's only points when they kicked the field goal and got on the board as well. Yeah. So we were going through the box score earlier today, or earlier just now, and we go from a player's point of view. And maybe some of the players that I didn't talk about yet. Jay Harris in this game. So I want to break down the carries for just a minute, because I did talk about USC. Not USC. I just saw a comment about USC. That's why I just saw that. I talked about Mekhi Hughes and some of these other guys. So Mekhi Hughes carried the ball 9 times for 30 yards. So it's a 3.3 yard average. Jay Harris carried it 7 times for 23. We talk about Lamar. So Mekhi Hughes had the most carries. Mekhi Hughes also had the second most snaps last week, but I think they're trying to get a lot of people into the rotation right now. I'm starting to feel strongly that it's Noah, it's Jaden Lamar, and it's De'Aaron Hill as your top 3, and Jordan Davison is certainly your power back right now. And yeah, I did not think I'd be maybe sitting in the spot that I did about Dewan Riggs right now. I did not think that would be. I want to get a comment from Quacker here. Can we give a shout out, of course, to former Duck quarterback Justin Herbert? We got people on television saying they're saying things, let me just put it that way, about Justin Herbert. And he balled out last night against the Chiefs, getting a big win. We're all rooting for the Chargers this season and hoping he does well, representing, of course, the former Oregon quarterback, the Eugene native, of ending his Oregon career, quarterback in the clear with that win against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. You look to the other side for Oklahoma State running back Caleb Hicks, 14 carries, 63 yards. He had 4.5 yards a pop. He had a long carry of 14 yards in this game. Rodney Fields, 10 carries for 30. As a team, 42 rushes, 144 yards, 3.4 yards per carry. I think they got a lot of that in like garbage time. In big time garbage time. I don't know. Like, there's garbage time when you're up by like 30, 35. And then what's the next level of garbage time? What happens when you're up by 50? What happens when you're up by 60? What do you call that? I don't know what you call that. Damian Ponce chiming in. This team has a little bit more discipline earlier than teams in the past few years. They do the little things right. Even when they're up big, this team has a very high ceiling. And when you're up big, and maybe when you play up against a team, and I talked about this during the week leading up when talking about Montana State, right? Is when you play a team that's not as talented, you have a tendency to maybe not go 110% every single play, right? You get more motivated, I think, the better team that you're going to face off against. And you have a tendency to maybe, go 70, go 80, 85, whatever it is. But, you get to some of these players and you get to some of these situations and that's not happening. And that, I think, starts with the culture that Lanning has built. That starts with that Saban type of mindset and playing hard. Like everybody talks about what happened with Alabama last week with Kalen DeBoer. I mean, guys aren't running. They're not playing hard. Alabama. Oregon is playing hard every single play. There are some plays out there where players have missed assignments, missed coverages. Maybe they get beat on a rep. But it doesn't happen 2 times in a row. That's what happens when you have the talent that they have, first of all. And then when you have that mindset that be like that you want to dominate your player every single time, that I'm sure Dan has installed in these people, this is the kind of stuff that you get. Bud says, Bud Everts been going to Duck games since 1963. Bud's been through it. He saw some of those teams pre-2000. Never recall back-to-back pick sixes. Go Ducks. Jerry Mixon in the right spot. Peyton Woodyard in the right spot. And boy, was it unraveling at that point for Oklahoma State. And everything just going the way of the Oregon Ducks at that point in time as well. Well, we've been going here for over an hour. I've got some stuff to still get done tonight. I appreciate everybody for chiming in on the TSOW text line. I appreciate everybody for getting involved in the chat as well. This was a good one, not only for the Oregon Ducks winning by 66 over Oklahoma State today, but also for everybody here within the TSOW community. We are going to be having a show on Monday. I'm going to have a chance to rewatch the film, going to watch it on Sunday. I'm going to have my Holy Wallawa Performers and Awards of the Week, highlighting the top performances and the top performers. So I'm going to do that, and then we're just going to do our final recap on how exactly things stand with Duck football after 2 games right now. We got one more text message, I think, before we get out of here from Justin, who chimed in before. The defense looked extremely dominant up front with multiple guys, while the secondary did a good job being physical and swatting passes away. Agree with that. It was very difficult for the Oklahoma State wide receivers to be able to separate. The offense looked like the game plan was to let everyone touch the ball, and they got it. Like I said this in my Scoop Duck written recap that's up on the site now. I mean, 10 guys. Dante Moore threw it to 10 guys. They're trying to get it to everybody possible, get as much reps as possible. It felt like we were playing an FCS team at times. That's what Justin says. That's not me. That's Justin. But I agree. Watching from the stands, it's a little different. You see stuff the cameras don't. Yeah, it's tough for me. It's always going to be tough for me to evaluate secondary, especially stuff down the field, especially safeties, because they're out of frame. Maybe, when they do a replay from a back angle or a sky cam angle, that's where you get a little bit of a better look. So it's really hard to evaluate that position on a TV copy. So, but I appreciate you giving me your insight, having seen this from the stands where you have a little bit of a better vantage point at that as well. Got one more message coming in. Love the show, Ted. Watch every show since I discovered it in the spring. Right now, to me, the best 4 teams are Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Georgia. In that order, what are your thoughts? I think we got to throw LSU in there. LSU got a really big win over Clemson. Not sure what the result was for Clemson over Troy. I know that was tied at 16 at one point in time, but I think you got to throw LSU in there. Right now, the top teams, I'd probably go Ohio State, yes. I'd go Oregon. I still think, I know they don't really play anybody prior to Oregon. I'd probably still throw Penn State in there right now. LSU, so I'd go Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Give me LSU. That's probably, 4 right off the bat. Maybe if you want to throw in a Georgia or Texas in there at number 5, I can get down with that. But I do feel like Oregon is a top 5 team in the country right now. Through 2 games, That's exactly where you want to be. And this is exactly what you want this team to look like, maybe unlike last season. 509 Duck says, it doesn't mean anything, but Dak Moore's first touchdown is like a carbon copy of Justin Jefferson's first NFL touchdown. He's been compared a lot to Justin Jefferson's teammate, that being, who am I trying to think of? Jamar Chase. DeCorian Moore has been compared a lot to him throughout the time before we've gotten started this season. I want to thank everybody for coming in live to that post-game show out west. We will see you on Monday. Ducks win 69-3 in impressive fashion. Until next time, I'm Ted LeBrew. This has been that post-game show out west.